Is BattleBit worth playing? Well, I hope to answer that question for you in this little review. And I'm generally going to split this up into like a section of positives about the game and then more onto the negatives about the game. So to start off with the positives, the gunplay, it's really nice. It feels more like a hardcore or realistic shooter in terms of its recoil because the guns have actual recoil which you can control with a mouse instead of just having some sort of bloom system that the earlier Battlefield titles would use, which, if you don't know what bloom is, it pretty much just randomly shoots bullets around where you're aiming instead of actually where you're aiming. So that means in BattleBit, if you get really good at controlling your recoil, you can pretty much laser people. So it's rewarding high-skilled players. There's also another thing from BattleBit which is sort of more realistic or hardcore based, is the ammo system. And instead of just using rounds that magically fill up a magazine whenever you reload, like in, say, Battlefield or Call of Duty, it's actually magazine based, which would be something more like Armor or Squad, where if you was to take out a magazine that's half empty and put in a fresh one, you will still have that half empty magazine which you may reload back in later. But there's one awesome mechanic in BattleBit, like a very underrated mechanic, which I don't think I've seen in any other game, which is just the combine magazines button. You'll see on the screen, you hold down, I think it's P by default, and it'll combine your used magazines together so you can have more like fresh magazines. It's not exactly like, well, it is a realistic thing, but it's probably not something you would do in the middle of combat. But I love this mechanic. I really love this mechanic, and I wish more games did it. I wish it went into something like Squad, but it would take a little bit longer to combine your magazines in Squad. I really hope they would look at doing something like that in Squad because it's just so awesome. The game also has a fast time to kill. No one's going to feel like a bullet sponge in this game, which is really good. But it's also not too fast, so you do actually have time to react for when you get shot. And I would say all weapons in this game feel viable. Now, of course, each weapon will perform slightly differently, but I think you can just choose any weapon you like the look of or like the sound of and just use that as your main weapon. Generally, loads of people use the M4 because it's the standard weapon in pretty much every shooter, but I'm rocking the AK and I'm really liking the AK. And when you do get shot, when you take a certain amount of damage, you will start bleeding, like in other realistic or hardcore shooters, which you then need to bandage to stop yourself bleeding to death. And you do have medics. Medic is a class in this game, amongst many other classes. The other ones being Assault, Engineer, Support and Recon, and they do get access to unique gadgets for their role, or in terms of the recon, unique weapons such as a sniper rifle. And to fix bleeding people, you can bandage anyone else, but only the medic can actually fully heal someone up, because you'll bandage yourself to stop yourself bleeding, but then you need that medic. And that sort of forces that teamwork aspect of these team-based shooters a bit more. You need to stick with your squad and you need people in various roles so you can just operate a little bit better. One thing it borrows from Squad, maybe saying borrowed from Squad is the wrong word, but maybe it's been inspired from Squad to have this mechanic in the game, is being able to drag downed players. So if someone gets downed just a little bit out of cover, you can go up to them and drag them into cover and then revive them. Again, like the combining magazines thing, I wish many more games would have this mechanic because it's really good. But one thing that's even better about this mechanic in BattleBit is that you can drag enemies, and there's proximity voice chat, so these enemies will be able to speak to you as you're dragging them away. It can just lead to some funny moments. And you can also hear the enemy's proximity chat when you kill them or just get killed by them. You can speak to them with like your last words. And yeah, there are a lot of people that speak in proximity chat in this game. Another good feature that the game has though is that when you see someone speaking in the bottom left corner of the screen, you'll see one of the F keys next to their name, and if you press that F key, it mutes that player. So if you do get these really annoying players, you can just press the F key that comes up next to their name just to mute them. It's a great little quality of life addition they've put into the game instead of having to go into the scoreboard and then finding that player's name and clicking mute. Again, it's another great feature I wish a lot more games would have in it. When it comes to weapon selection in the game, there is a huge amount of weapons in the game. I think just for the assault rifles alone, there's probably more assault rifles in BattleBit than there was total weapons available in Battlefield 2042 on release. That's not including, your sidearms, your SMGs, your sniper rifles, and some other gadgets which you could class as weapons. So BattleBit's got a really great selection of weapons available for you, and there's shitloads of attachments as well, and loads of different attachment points on each weapon. And when you go to assign these different attachments, it gives you pretty clear positive and negatives of how that's going to affect the weapon. Along with weapons, though, there are some vehicles available in the game, and the vehicles are pretty fun. The vehicles can seem to drive, at least the land vehicles can seem to drive a bit floaty at times, especially when you're using the boost feature on them. But they're pretty fun to drive. You can smash through buildings in them because there is destruction in this game, and the destruction just works. It just works. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It works. There's nothing negative to say against it. It just works like I would expect it to do. And one standout thing that the game has is the helicopters. You can drop down the rappel rope, so you can slide down the rope as the helicopter's in flight. Really cool feature. Now on to some negatives for the game, and these are really the only negatives that I could come up with when playing BattleBit. Now first off, the guns. The sound effects for the guns, honestly, are pretty terrible. Especially the sniper rifles. They just seem so weak. They really need to work and put some different sound effects in, something that's got a bit more of a punch, because it's just not good. The art style, now for me, I don't like the art style of this game. I don't, but I always do say gameplay over graphics, and this has great gameplay. So if you can look past that art style like I have, you will find a great game here to play. Also, when you're in a squad, if the squad leader doesn't take the squad leader kit, there's no way to grab that squad leader kit or even the squad leader role. And you want to have a squad leader that's actually performing like a squad leader, because they can put down like a rally point or a radio, which is a squad based spawn point. So they need to put in some way to basically take the squad leader role from a squad leader that doesn't want to be a squad leader. Also, I think some maps are just too small for the 254 player count servers that are available. And one issue that you will run into is that because there can be so many friendly markers just spread out everywhere, you will sometimes just see them over enemies' heads, because while that marker isn't actually above the enemy's head, it's just a friendly far in the distance. So sometimes you will just take that little bit longer to recognize, oh, it is actually an enemy, but they've already decided to start shooting at you and you're probably already going to be dead. So I think they need to work on that, like the little triangles that identify friendly players a little bit better, or make them hide or become auto transparent if that marker is for a friendly that you cannot actually see. Now, while the customization is great in BattleBit, there's a strange thing that there's no way to customize your character or your loadout in the main menu. You have to join a server to be able to do that. It's a small thing, but just why? The only reason I can think is that your loadouts are saved only when you're in a server, that they don't have this saving of your loadouts in the main menu, so they can't do it that way. I don't know, it's just really odd. I want to be able to go into my customization and my loadout in the main menu so I can just sit there and spend a bit of time without having this battle going on behind the scenes. And some of the maps are they're just not great. The flow of them isn't great, and the design of them isn't great. I think most of the maps are just sort of okay with some good ones. I think it feels like some of these maps, they haven't been almost designed as a map for a first-person shooter. They've been designed as just oh, this is a town, this is a factory, not this is a town, which should be a map for a first-person shooter and have good lanes and good sight blocking things and stuff like that. I think they need to put a little bit more time into new maps they bring into the game. And that's pretty much it for negatives. I think BattleBit, it's a top tier shooter. It really surprised me when I first played one of the early tests for this game. I wasn't that too into it, but now I've bought the game, I've played it a bit more, quite a bit more, looked past the art style completely, and what you have is an extremely solid shooter that really puts Battlefield and that other shit game, Call of Duty, to shame. It's not a fully casual shooter, it's not a fully hardcore realistic shooter. It's a really good blend, but it's more towards the casual shooter on the scale of like casual to hardcore. So if you want like a side game to play, if you play something like Squad or Hell Let Loose, I think this game will be just really great for you. Or if you're playing a shit game like Call of Duty or something that's a little bit better than Call of Duty, Battlefield, but you want to play something that's a little bit more hardcore realistic, go with BattleBit, even though it does look like Roblox, but just look past that art style. Give this video a like if you liked it, dislike if you didn't. Let me know what you think about BattleBit down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.